Well, everyone, I have Miss Elizabeth Fletcher on today. How are you doing this?
I'm doing well. Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, especially while it's sleeting where I am and snowing where you are. So
For those of you that don't know, I'm in Austin and there's actual real snow coming down and I played in it a little bit, but we're going to get to this interview. You're getting ready for the Saints game, right?
I am. I am such a Saints fan. I am born and raised from Louisiana. So I'm a Creole woman and I love my Saints.
Okay, okay. The first question that I like to ask you, what are three decisions that were significant in your life?
Um, the decision to do right, regardless of what's going on around me, I would say is number one. Number two, the decision to succeed no matter what others told me I could or couldn't do, such as whether it was about my color or my gender. And I would say three, the decision to um, show my daughter that I've gone through adversity, yet she doesn't have to still, go through the same steps that I went through, but still teaching her how to survive with resources without still having her go through struggle.
Okay. I, from a distance, watching your posts, it really impresses me the professionalism that you demonstrate, but at the same time, you will let your hair down and have some fun. And finally, the interaction that you have with your daughter. I was watching one of your posts and you were teaching her how to skate and
Yes.
you gave her some instructions, but she didn't listen at first. And so she came away from the table and
Uh-huh.
fell. Then you
Yes.
picked her up and you basically adjusted the chairs just to show her, listen, during this process, hold on to the chairs and walk around. And that just speaks volumes to me of the woman that you are. And
Thank you.
so, is there anything that you would like to share with anyone who's watching of what it took to become who you are?
My foundation. It takes strong women to raise a strong woman. And I feel like my foundation, of course, my mother, first and foremost, my paternal grandmother. Um, I was active in a lot of organizations as a little girl, such as Del Sprites, which is an organization by Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I was active in Top Teens of America, which is an organization by Top Ladies of Distinction. My mother always had me busy, whereas I had all the extra curricular activity, but I still had to keep my grades up. I still had to be active in church too. So I think that those foundations and those principles from so many strong women allowed me to be that. Not to mention, my father in my life as well too. Although my father was not in my home, his presence was still ever felt. So he was never too far away. So I think that I have definitely been blessed to have a great foundation, to say the least, where it wasn't always peaches and cream, but it was always still love. And I think that with my life, I try and live a life of that love wins, regardless. Love wins.
Okay. And so, because I believe in you, I'm going to go ahead and go into this. When you said earlier that you made a decision to do right, a lot of people say that, and there are some obstacles. Can you tell us just a story of an obstacle that you overcame to do right?
I would say that, in my life, I haven't always had the friends that were saved or the friends that were good.
Okay.
I'm the only, I have 8 brothers. I have a lot of brothers.
Oh,
Um, and for me, I always like to tell people, because I love I have no problem with telling people where I come from. I'm from the hood. So I tell people all the time, don't let the degrees fool you. Don't let the pearls or the classiness fool you. I like how you said, I like to let my hair down. You know, I like to have some fun, but I feel like, a lot of times it's been stories where, some of my friends may have decided to do a certain thing, that I can excuse myself while still not being the girl where, oh, you're not cool, or you're not wanting to hang with us, but still being that person that's known to say that if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it. And because you do it, that don't make you wrong and that don't make me right. But me always having the choice to say, if I don't feel it to be in my gut to be that what I want to do, then I won't do it. Now, it's been times where I've thought that it wasn't a good decision, whether it was investment or whatever it could be, and it turned out to be great. But I had no regrets about my decision, what I felt to be is right. And I feel like that's what I teach my daughter too. I teach my daughter, I allow her to express herself. And, growing up in the country, we weren't always allowed to have so many, say so, right? To be able to express ourselves or ask questions why, or want to have explanations. So with her, I teach her that it's okay to question, because I want her to know that I'm not a martyr, first of all. And for me, even though I'm your mom, does not mean that I'm always right. It does not mean that.
Does she understand that at the age she's at?
She does, because, it's times where she'll be around her friends and she'll say, well, my mommy does it this way, but she told me that some of her other friends does it that way, but this is the way I want to do it.
Oh, man. Okay.
And I'm absolutely fine with that. Like, it could be cooking in the kitchen, for example. My passion is cooking. And she'll ask me, how do you do this? Like, do I need to put the Tony Sashry before the garlic powder? I'm like, you can put the garlic powder first. I just like to do certain stuff first or in this order. But as long as it tastes good and you put the love in it, it's fine. Or even like with the skating, I like to give her instruction and see what she does with the instruction. And like when she fell, I didn't run to go save. I let her figure it out and see how it felt. Because since she didn't listen to my instructions, she got a chance to feel the ground. So what I do is I try and readjust her. So to go back to your question about has there been times, that I've been in a situation that I didn't always make the right choice, and I've been in situations like that? Absolutely. One of my favorite quotes is, change is inevitable, growth is optional. Okay. So what's going to happen is the change around us is going to happen regardless of what we want to do about it. But how much do we plan to grow is what sets the difference. So it's been mistakes that I've made in my life. It's been choices that I've made in my life that have not always put me in the forefront of where I wanted to be. And I like to even teach my daughter that, oh, mommy makes mistakes, but I fixed it.
Okay. What has the journey been like? Because you share a lot of your interaction with your daughter on Instagram. And I'm looking, and it's fun, but what has that been like? Because knowing you are doing that for a reason. You have a plan, you have a purpose. And so share a little bit about that.
So for me, I don't ever like for social media to make people think that everything that's posted is only the successes, right? People love to post their successes, but do they actually show you their failures or the mistakes or what allowed them to get to the success? So for me, I try to live a transparent life, whereas people see, because technically, me being a single parent mom in the home with my daughter and stuff and teaching her how to do things, everything is not always peaches and cream. Sometimes I've had more bill than money, right? So even with my entrepreneurship, I wanted to make a decision that I would not always have to worry about if corporate America wanted me or not. And I know a lot of other single moms or moms that do a lot of the things by themselves financially, or the majority financially, let me say that. A lot of times they look on social media and you see this woman that look like her daughter just has it all, or that it's always so fun, or they look so perfect. I don't want to be that. I want to be that person that shows you like, look, I'm grinding too.
That's right.
So it's like on social media, I just think that social media makes so much things unfair. I was telling my girlfriends the other day, as far as like, for example, like our bodies, for example, right? You look on social media and you see this fine woman. Oh, she's fine. She has no fupa. Her stomach is flat as a board, and oh, she's fine. But I mean, sometimes we don't understand that maybe she had liposuction to get that. Maybe she had stressful situations in her life that caused her to stress out and lose all, all of her weight to get there. Right?
I was sitting here and I'm listening to you, and it was coming, but since you brought it up, I said, if this phrasing is proper, you will, allow me to rephrase this, you have in your post basically let some people know who look, this is my body.
Yes.
I'm proud of my body, but I'm also working. And when I saw that, because there's a very fine line between, look, I'm sharing with you, and look, I'm just fine, look at me. And I think that you walk that line very carefully, especially being an entrepreneur. And so would you share anything concerning body type or people who have struggles with their bodies?
I'm all about my own happiness. So for me, I don't need the washboard with abs. The muffin top coupled with the fupa sometimes bothers me at times. And then other times I rub it after eating a real big meal and I love it. I think it's about how I feel on that particular day, because I can eat and I love food. So it's times where like I can eat a bowl of gumbo for breakfast, literally, mind you, breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, and still with turn around and eat red beans and rice for lunch, and will eat my Southern comforts and feel proud of my fupa. I kid you not, will sit back and pat that belly like a playground and love it. And then it's other times where then I'm looking up like, oh my gosh, now summer has rolled around and now I'm being invited to a pool party. And now I got to wear the one piece or the high-waisted swimwear. So I think that is all about the internal happiness of that person and what you want. And these days, there's so much stuff to disguise and come around. You have waist trainers, you have all kinds of stuff. So for me, I'm all about what I feel that I want. And I try my best not to make society make me feel that I should look a certain way. It's just all about what I want at that particular time.
Is there a key that got you to that point?
So I've always been athletic. I'll say that. I always played, like, for instance, even in school, I played every sport that a girl could possibly play. In college, I powerlifted. So I've always been athletic and I've always liked being busy. I feel like the older I get now as a professional woman, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a community activist, is that sometimes it's the time, meaning that time where I used to wake up in the morning and go jog and still have time to go to the gym. Those are times now that I find it to be more important, my priorities, to spend more time with my daughter, or knowing that I need rest because maybe I didn't sleep the night before because I had rush delivery resumes to do and still had to go to work the next morning. So I think it's all about balance.
And I believe you do that well because obviously you're growing, your business is expanding, your networks are expanding. And so let's speak about that. For those who don't know, I know a lot of people do. Let us know what you do. What is your business?
Thanks for asking that. So again, as you know, I am a professional resume writer. So I've been in human resources over 10 years, and I've been doing resumes for right about 8 years now. And I do professional resume writing. I do interview preparation because I firmly believe that the resume gets you the interview, and then the interview prayerfully then gets you the job. So preparation is key. I also do salary negotiation. I also do public speaking, whereas I'll come out and speak to different groups about what to expect. I like my role as a professional resume writer because it allows me to take my full-time job, for example, as I say, as a human resources manager, and I actually have my master's degree in human resources management with the concentration in organizational development. Whereas I like to be able to come out and give you those tips and the transparency about what HR expects, what HR is looking for. There's not a one-size-fit-all resume, but your resume should definitely be a walking billboard of your career and your summary and what you've done. and then getting you into the applicant tracking systems, ATS for short, and getting you into different ways to be able to sit in front of the interviewer and then speak. And then once you speak, you're bringing their resume to life.
Thank you.
And I also do LinkedIn optimization too.
Oh, okay. And so we're going to make sure that we get your contact information.
Absolutely. I love that.
On this video, because I know people listen, but we're also visual. And so do you have a particular, because when I first met you and you were helping me with my resume, I visited your site and there was a lot of feedback from the different individuals who you had helped. Does anyone stand out in your mind as a per se feel good story? I mean, you give us all your best, but is there someone who stands out in your mind like, when I did this resume, whether it was your first one or the last one you did, or it was difficult?
That's a good question. And I'll be honest, I'm somewhat biased where, to be honest, my favorite resumes to do are those that come from men, especially a lot of times men that are single parents, for example. Those are like the heartfelt stories, because I actually have conversations with my clients and they become like sometimes I call them my resume client friends per se. Because once I do your resume, I'm not just done with you. I still keep that window open where you're able to reach out to me, ask me questions, and follow up too. I don't just close the door. So I'll say that a lot of times one of my favorite to say are those personal ones are like the single dad. And in particular, it was one where unfortunately his wife had passed like a few years prior, and he was left with 4 beautiful children to raise on his own. And he reached out to me for a resume. He had been in his industry for so long. And, I guess a lot of times people don't think to say, okay, let me hire someone to do a resume.
Mm-hmm.
So with him in particular, he had been in his job for so long and was looking for a career change because he wanted to spend more time with his children. And I think stereotypes in society a lot of times make us think that, fathers do all the work while the women spend the time with the children. And sometimes so many fathers are absent, and that's not always true, right? So with him, I felt the passion, and he said, I want to be able to have time to spend time with my children, yet I still want to be able to financially provide. So I took him through some conversations where it's finding out what are your passions, because in order to have that feeling to feel like I want to come home and still spend that time with my children, you have to be happy in what you do. You have to have that joy and that passion. So when you come home, you're not trying to put this facade on, but you're still happy from what events occurred prior. Because as parents, our children are not always so privy to understanding that we may have had a bad day at work, right? And there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. But him in particular, walking him through how to transition a career, teaching him transferable skills and teaching him how to interview and articulate how his past skills can then be utilized for these future skills for the positions that he was trying to apply for. And seeing him not only get the position, but not taking the first salary that was offered to him, because I walked him through how to negotiate his salary and him getting even more than what he asked for.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I couldn't ask for anything better to say that, that I was able to help him in transitioning his career to spend more time with his children. Yeah, I love it.
I can see that. Just the thoughts. When I'm always looking at different individuals, my mind, the way it works is like, how did you get to this point? Not so much out of curiosity, but that's how I learn. Because when people do what they do well, and obviously you do what you do well, my first thought is, how did she get there? How did she get there? And it's not that I'm trying to walk in those steps, but I am going to learn something from your journey. So I appreciate you sharing. Now, a subject that I know will bring a smile to your face: sororities. Okay, because the viewpoint that I had about sororities when I attended Texas Southern is quite different now, because I had a lot of friends in different sororities, but lately there are 2 sororities that I have a really good friend that belongs to one, and You who are my friend and some others, they belong to another. And it always seems, I said, I know there are numerous sororities, but your sorority is standing out not only in social activism, but just things that you're doing. So if you were speaking to a young lady, and let's just say, for the sake, I can only go by my knowledge, we have an AKA, we have a Delta, and you're saying, listen, our sisterhood is where it's at. What would you share?
So I guess for me, I wouldn't want to sell this young lady on which one to select.
Okay.
I honestly, I guess for me, I always wanted to be a Delta, always. But I was raised by many Deltas. Again, like I was a Delta Sprite from age 5. So at 5 years old, my elementary principal, Mrs. Esther D. Vincent, she was already a Delta. So Mrs. Esther D. Vincent took me underneath her wings and got me into Del Sprite with my mother's permission, of course. And literally every single summer, basically, of my life, I was going on historically Black college tours with these women. They taught me proper etiquette. They taught me a lot of stuff. So it was pushed within me. And at the same time, too, I was also very active by the age of, I would say 14, by some family members of mine back in Lake Charles that I then also got active with, AKA as well, in their Sparkles organization. I think that every single organization within the D9 and those organizations by the women are all beautiful organizations. So for me, I don't sell a woman on saying you should do AKA, you should do Delta. You should do whatever within your heart. I know a lot of times they joke about, well, what if Eden wants to do something other than Delta? Then you know what? I would definitely pick with her because I'm that mama I'm going to talk trash for sure. But I would really just want to know like why, right? But you know, for me, I didn't get the privilege of pledging in undergrad. I did alumni as far as grad chapter. Mm-hmm. But I would say that, you know, for those college girls, every organization may be different on that campus that may speak to them, right? So even though, for example, Eden may be raised by her Delta mom and all her Delta aunties and all of these great women in her family that are, you know, because, you know, for me, of course, Delta Sigma Theta is the only way for me. Okay. But I can't speak for that for my daughter. What if she got to a campus and there were no Deltas on campus, or the Deltas on campus didn't really have a lot of the interests that she had, and she was more related to the Sigma Gamma Rhos or the AKAs or the Zetas? For me, all of our organizations were built on amazing foundations, amazing principles that were pushed to empower and motivate Black women, period. Now we get to clowning and laughing and doing our fake bashing with each other when we get a time to clown. But I guarantee you, we're all going to be rooting and defending each other. For example, with Kamala Harris, an AKA woman, a Black woman. It's no way I'm going to, you know, try and, degrade the fact that, oh, because she's an AKA and not a Delta, right? Now, again, we may throw our shade and have fun about, hey, well, Shirley Chisholm helped to pave that way as a Delta woman. But within our organizations, I am so grateful to have friends that are in all of these organizations and just fine. My daughter has 2 godmothers. Funny story. One godmother is an AKA, the other godmother is a Zeta. Okay. And apparently her mom is a Delta. So for that young lady that's thinking about what she want to do in college, I would say just enjoy the experience and go with what speaks to your heart, but be true to yourself. Don't do what your friends want to do. Don't do it what, do it what speaks to you. And for me, Delta Sigma Theta just always spoke to me.
Okay. That was a very good answer. And thank you. As a mother, mm-hmm. What has been the greatest attribute or characteristic that your daughter has drawn out from you?
Patience. It takes my dad, funny. My dad says that I have the patience of Job when I deal with my daughter. I remember even being pregnant, making a decision, as we talked earlier in the interview about decisions. Mm-hmm. I made the decision that I didn't want to use profanity with her, for example. I wanted to treat her better than I would my employees at work. We write our tongues. We deal with a lot of stuff from our coworkers, right? And you may go home later and be like, "Whoo, Susie sure got my nerve," or whatever, right? But we don't tell them that at work because we don't want to risk losing our job. So for me, when it comes to eating, I have patience, meaning I have time for her. Because if I can't have time for her, I can't and I won't make time for anything else. So with my instructions with her, with my teaching her, I try to give her my patience and time and diligence with being very, very soft with her. Still stern in my instructions. Apparently, as you see here, I have a raspy voice. So I'm very stern with her, but I'm very soft and patient with her. And I'll say that she brought that out me. Before eating, in fact, so my line name actually is Energizer Bunny. I'm always all over the place and very energetic. And with her, I like time just stops. And I give her as best as I can of what she needs or what I feel like she needs. And I let her know that she can talk to me, that she can question why I ask her to do something. And I feel like that's my biggest attribute that I've had with her is my patience with her.
That's awesome. That's awesome. As we're coming to an end, I read one of your posts, and this post was quite some time ago, and you had a quote, and the quote was, "Your first impression of me was." And so what I do is I generally allow whomever I interview to ask me any questions that they would like. So I'm going to put that on the table. But before I do, I'm going to ask you that question because we met under some unique circumstances. And so that is my question. When we met, and I know it's a long time ago, and I know it was by phone, but what was your first impression of me? Because we had a great conversation, but I had to ask you, I need help. And that's not really how you want to open up a meeting.
I think that my first impression of was overcomer. If I had to put it into one word, overcomer, like, learning your story from you yourself and hearing you articulate it and speak it with such pride, the lack of shame, but just overcomer, I'd say, was my first impression of you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
If you could tell your younger self some advice, what would you tell yourself?
Don't take the shortcut and believe in the process. My mother, who raised me, she constantly would affirm the fact that because I attended a lot of private schools and they were smaller and I play sports. So generally where I would want to go play sports or the guys who I would want to be with, they would be at public schools. And she'd always tell me, if you're good at what you do, people will find you. I threw that advice away. And I finally convinced, let me go to public school. And that led to a whole bunch of nonsense that I had not been exposed to. And when I look back and I really ask myself that question, it was always just being very transparent. I'm smart enough to do it the way I want to do it. So I can take the shortcut. I don't have to put in the work. I don't have to be there a year. If I have the ability, whether it's through conversation or through athletic prowess, I'm going to do it. And that's something that it took me late in life to learn, that don't take shortcuts. Even when you can and you seem to get the results, the process is what builds the character. The process is what allows the strategy to evolve. And so a lot of times I found myself in positions or circumstances or relationships that I obtained exactly what I wanted, but I did not have the character. I did not have the understanding, and I had the wrong strategies. And so it did not last long. So that's what I would tell my younger self is don't take shortcuts.
I like that. That's deep too.
Well, I mean, it is. When you said that, I thought about it. I'm like, how did I just messed up, and it would always be, and right now I'm facing that, meaning there are different opportunities on the table, even with my limitations. But I've really learned that I'm not going to take a shortcut, meaning to acquire a higher paying job or to acquire my wife. I'm not going to take the shortcut. I'm not going to settle, because in the long run, I'm not going to be the man I need to be to maintain it. And I'm not speaking about intellectually, just, boy, character and attitude has a lot to do with things. And if
Yep.
I've been blessed with anything, when I was incarcerated, the Holy Spirit ministered something to me one time and said, "You're in your current circumstances because of your decisions the last 10 years. And then I had an understanding that, what would my next 10 years look like if I actually don't take a shortcut? And I'm just, to be totally honest, I've been blessed. And that's why I believe in the process. I believe even when it's difficult and there seems to be a quicker, easier way, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to take the process, because what it's going to form in me, what it's going to show me, what it's going to bring out of me, that is going to last forever.
Wow. Hmm.
So I
Love
know
it.
that you have to the Saints game. I appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you'd like to share in this interview?
It's been and like beyond a pleasure to be here with you and speak with you. Thanks for asking me some of the hard questions. With no, I appreciate it. I appreciate these thought provoking questions. I do want to tell your anyone that's viewing this, I definitely would love to work with you and help you, even if it's just to give you a few pointers. Um, I'm sure he'll give you my contact information, but you can reach out to me on Facebook at Wordsmith Resume Writing, on Instagram at Wordsmith Resume, as well as I'm also on Twitter. I'm getting used to Twitter. It's HR Bay 2 on Twitter, but definitely please feel free to reach out to me. I do have a website as well, www.wordsmithresumewriting.com. And I look forward to speaking with you all. So hopefully maybe we can put my information in there in the context, but definitely feel free to reach out to Sean for sure, because he definitely knows how to reach out to me. And I definitely look forward to working with each and every one of you, or answering questions and helping to guide that conversation too.
Okay. Thank you. I hope your Saints have a good game, and your daughter, she was patient enough during this interview. So you have a wonderful day. Okay.
Thank you.